This is BYU Sports Nation, brought to you by the BYU Store, simulcast on BYU TV and BYU Radio. Now, from Studio B, here's Spencer Linton and Jarom Jordan.
BYU Sports Nation is live, your day-to-day play-by-play in Studio B, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Monday, May 16th, wherever and however you have chosen to connect. Great to have you with us. I am Spencer Linton, once again, and after a long while, teamed up with a guy who knows that Coldplay is an elite band, Jarom Jordan.
Yes, it is. I went Thursday night in Phoenix at State Farm Stadium. My mom informed me, Jake Oldroyd made the game-winning kick down on this end of the field in 2016. It's pretty awesome. But, yeah, great time. I know I actually saw Jared Brady of the men's volleyball team down there with his family. Because Coldplay didn't come to Utah or even Vegas, there were a lot of people who went down to Phoenix for that one.
For sure.
Which was good. So, good to see the homies.
It's good to be in high demand and be able to charge a lot of money for those high-demand tickets.
I had forgotten I'd purchased 4 tickets, not 2.
Woo!
So I had to sell the other 2. Let's say I had to undersell. So I should have had you fly in, bro.
Oh, man. Had I known.
You were probably calling a game that night.
Had I known.
Were you calling a game that night? Did you call it? No, you threw out the first pitch for baseball.
I did throw out the first
Congratulations.
pitch.
That's cool, man.
I'm just happy it hit the glove, right?
That's
just happy it hit the glove.
I've thrown it twice, once with you, once by myself. One I put in the dirt because I was like in a suit, did Hideo Nomo. I was stupid. The second one, I took it easy, just lofted it in there. Yeah.
Just hit the glove, right?
Are we going to do a Shep versus Spence?
Yes, that's going to happen.
Speedometer?
BYU, that was brought to my attention after I threw the first pitch by some BYU baseball players and one of the coaches saying we need to have a Spencer versus Shep baseball throw-off.
Because in that, rumor has it that Taysom Hill last year threw a first pitch, and his attempt was to try and break, the radar. Just like go to 80 miles an hour or whatever. Because he's got an arm. Like he's Taysom Hill. He's Taysom beeping Hill. Like, let's go. So, yes, that would be fun. I wouldn't mind participating. Can I participate?
Absolutely. Let's make it a trio.
Are we just?
Why not?
Are we going accuracy? Are we going straight speed?
I think it'll be a full skill set. From what I was gathering in the dugout, it was speed, batting, throwing, like an entire
all of it.
An entire workout to assess baseball skills.
Oh, fielding?
Yes.
Okay.
Taking ground balls, all of that stuff.
I cannot wait to watch Shep do this.
We'll see if he agrees to it. I'm in. I'm all in.
We went to the batting cages a couple years ago with them. Like, just stepped in. I was shocked at how fast it was. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just guessing. Like I connected with one. I was like a weak grounder down to the third baseline. I was like, oh my gosh.
Let's go. Hey,
level.
Viva la vida for baseball and for today's show lineup. The true cost of success for BYU football in 2022. Does winning double-digit games and balling out in 2022 somehow impact what BYU is going to have available in 2023? Don't forget, BYU basketball's newest signee, Braeden Moore, will join us live. And yes, with his Coldplay T-shirt on, Jarom Jordan is back.
Most expensive T-shirt I've ever purchased, Spence.
I don't doubt it.
And I used my skip the line thing. Have I told you about this?
No.
Okay, this is a game changer, okay? I go to the third person from the front, and I say, I'll Venmo you $5 plus the cost of the shirt to just buy it for me when you get up there so that I don't have to wait.
And they'll do it.
Yeah.
Well
saves
played.
you so much. It saves you like 30 minutes.
Venmo for the win.
$5.
Bring on today's BYU Sports Nation headlines.
I can afford $5 too, so it's good. BYU men's basketball signed 6'8", 210-pound Braden Moore from Nashville, Tennessee. We love Nashville. Did a Fan Fest 2019. We love Nashville.
Nashville is a fantastic city.
I want to go back. Moore was a finalist for Mr. Tennessee. His junior year comes from the Kanye West Donda Academy. I like that. Moore isn't a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, therefore has 4 straight years to play. If wanted, we'll talk to Braden coming up later in the program.
BYU baseball sweeps Pacific over the weekend. They have now won 9 straight, 7 of those in conference, and have qualified for the West Coast Conference postseason tournament in Stockton, California later this month. It's now a seeding game. The Batcats take on rival Utah tomorrow, Miller Park, 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain. You can watch it streamed live on the BYU TV app.
Johnny Applesley had the same situation. Softball sweeps St. Mary's over the weekend and the regular season. 42-10, co-West Coast Conference champs, 13th straight season winning a conference championship, and on a 17-game win streak. Let's give it up for the softball team.
Yes, softball. Well done.
Excellent season. And then the committee doesn't give them an at-large. They tie with LMU. LMU wins the tiebreaker because LMU won 2 of 3 against BYU. And BYU does not get into the NCAA tournament. This doesn't make any sense. 42-10, hot as hotcakes to end the season. Nothing.
Steaming pile of hot garbage, Jarom.
Well, it's steaming pile
hot
of something,
garbage!
Something else, but yeah. Come on!
Because of the RPI!
Yeah. You know what?
That thing needs to die a fiery death.
Thank you. BYU is not going to have this issue in 2 seasons.
Truth.
Won't have it.
Truth.
Won't have it.
Still bothered so much by that. Ugh. Well, some good news from Zach McWhorter. He continues to shine, breaks his own school record in the pole vault for the 3rd time in 6 months.
So good.
The women's 4x100 also broke a school record. Among other track and field accomplishments this weekend, 5 other top 10 finishes in program history were recorded. They're unbelievable. 400-meter, shot put, 800-meter pole vault, and the decathlon. Well done, BYU track and field on the last chance meet.
You almost feel bad for the ones holding the records because they're like just Spider-Man holding those 2 trains together. Just.
Tom Holmoe sent me a text message on Friday night after Chloe Temple set a strikeout record for an individual game and said, records were made to be broken, Spencer.
Yes, there were. Men's golf currently competing in the NCAA Regionals group in Stockton, California. Team currently sitting at 5th overall with Max Brenchley leading the charge, tied at 26.
Go
Top
Max!
5 teams, top individual from each regional will move on to compete in the D1 Championships in Scottsdale, Arizona. Good luck to the brethren.
Okay, so the top 5, and they're number 5 right now.
Hold on.
Stay there. Speaking of Spider-Man and his webs trying to stop, just come on!
Yes, they'll go through what, tomorrow, I think? I think it's a Sunday through Tuesday, so I don't know if they played their first round Saturday or if they're playing twice today or not.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall if Sunday plays is applicable in this round or if it's the next round or if it's both rounds.
Or maybe they play 2 tomorrow or something.
We'll see. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
You're talking about it, and so are we. It's What's Trending on BYU Sports Nation.
The true cost of greatness for BYU football. It's well documented. We've discussed it a lot on this program. BYU 11 wins in 2020, 10 wins in 2021. They finished ranked for the first time in 12 years and have done so now in back-to-back seasons following those double-digit wins, Jarom. Incredible stuff. And now we anticipate they will be ranked for the first time since 2009 going into a season.
Life's good.
In the AP poll. However, is there a cost associated with being great in 2022, knowing that the Big 12 looms in 2023? So, Jarom, will success in this upcoming season somehow negatively impact BYU in their first year of the Big 12 just because of a talent drop-off potentially?
First off, the present is more important than the future when it comes to winning in sports. So win now, worry about the future a little bit later. If the cost of a great 2022 is a tougher 2023.
4 to 5 draft picks.
It is worth it. It is worth it.
Okay.
Let's talk about it. So if BYU's really good in 22, to me, really good on this schedule is probably 9 wins. 9 and 4 would be really good.
Okay.
10 plus, awesome. The reason I say 9 and not 10 like normal is because you have 4 preseason ranked teams on the schedule. That's really difficult. So let's go. This team's going to be awesome. That awesomeness could manifest itself in 9 wins, 10 wins, maybe 11. That would be awesome. Then the following dudes could be gone because they'd be, fourth-year juniors, and they don't want to be a fifth or 6th year. Jaron Hall, Puka Nacua, Blake Freeland at left tackle, Chaz Ayu, who's already said, I'm done after this year regardless, and Keenan Peely.
Not to mention Clark Barrington on the offensive line.
Add him in. All of those guys could come back after this year if they want. But if BYU's good, I think they're all gone. Not to mention the 5th-year seniors who we know will be gone. Peyton Wilgar, Gunnar Romney, Christopher Brooks, Lopini Katoa, D'Angelo Mandel, Malik Moore, and some others. So if BYU's really good and these guys bounce, 2023 could feature a new quarterback, new top 2 running backs, new left tackle, left guard, top 2 linebackers. That's not ideal when you go into 2023 in the Big 12. But guess what? I'd take it right now because I want 2022 to be a fantastic season like the last 2 have been. And this group is ready to do it. This group is ready to do something no BYU team has done, which is show it's truly ready for big-time ball. If BYU goes 10-plus on this schedule again and 3 years in a row, and you get your second NFL quarterback draft pick in the last 3 years in Jaron Hall, now you're cooking. And I think BYU's cooking right now, but you're really cooking with oil if you do that this year. And it would be worth it because guess what? 2023, now in recruiting, you can haul in some guys maybe you couldn't before because of that.
That's the game changer. If you're replenishing these incredible athletes with guys you typically wouldn't get because you've been great and because you're going to a Power 5, now we're talking.
Yes, and can you get the same talent level you had in 2022? Probably going to be hard to do so and to feel like in 2023, yeah, we can go for 10-plus. Listen, first 2 years in the Big 12, just keep your head above water and go to a bowl game. And then you kind of build from there is my hope. Obviously, we all want more than that, but it would be worth it. If 22 is awesome, and I think it's going to be, we all do, that 2023 is affected in that way. That's okay. Win now.
We all know that if you have a quarterback at this level of football, you've got a shot. And if Jaron Hall decides to go after the 2022 season, well-deserved. Right now, he's a projected first or third-round pick, depending on where you look at.
Which is amazing.
I found a website that compiles, kind of like Bracket Matrix.
Oh.
They compile all of the draft projections.
Oh, snap.
For the top athletes.
Do share.
He's anywhere from first to third. I will.
Yeah.
I'll do that during the break.
Will you text, tweet, will you Snapchat me that link?
I'll snap it to you. I'll put it on TikTok for everybody.
Send that to my MySpace.
Let's go.
Yeah.
But if Jaron Hall decides to leave, then BYU obviously has a gaping void to fill before they go into year one of the Big 12. Is it Cade Fennegan? Is Jacob Conover the guy that finally ascends and steps into his 4 stars that he had coming out of high school? The guy that said no to Nick Saban, is he the dude that takes the next step? Or is it somebody else? Is it somebody from the transfer portal?
Is it someone BYU is going to play this year? Who knows?
Very interesting.
Who knows?
It might have been Jerry Bohannon had he decided to come to BYU.
I saw that. I was like, what?
But now Jerry Bohannon happens to be playing for the team that BYU will face first this season.
Wait, where's he going? I didn't hear.
USF.
Always at USF.
Indeed. And that game happens in how many days? Hit it.
Countdown to the Bulls.
110.
Ball start on me.
110 days away from Jerry Bohannon.
So Jerry's going to start for them,
transfer quarterback to the USF Bulls, BYU in Tampa. You would think he'll start. They've got a really good young quarterback that we got a good look at last year in Provo.
Jordan?
Yes.
He was like Mike Vick light.
I know. So
third down and 12, we're just scrambling for
now a quarterback controversy brewing in Tampa. Who knows? Not with Tom Brady, that's for sure. But maybe with USF.
Should Tom Brady just retire to get the money from Fox now? Is he going to make more as an analyst?
Yeah, to your point, Jarom, success in 2022 is paramount. It is first and foremost.
Yeah.
If BYU is able to win 10-plus games for a third straight season, holy cow, talk about momentum going into the Big 12.
Seriously.
And then the recruiting pool
That's the momentum Russell M. Nelson was talking about in conference.
Let's go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that it is absolutely at the top of every list is win right now and then see what happens, because just maybe another quarterback, a high-level guy's like, whoa, BYU just had Zach Wilson and Jaron Hall. They've had 2 quarterbacks drafted in the last 3 years. They've won 10-plus games. Maybe I should take a serious look at going to BYU, and BYU starts to get some high-level quarterback guys coming in through the transfer portal and out of high school.
This is what happened in 1981 when a curly-haired, good-looking dude out of Connecticut was like, where should I play my ball? Steve Young decided, Mark Wilson, Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Robbie Bosco comes.
I want to go to BYU. You're not a BYU quarterback, Steve.
Yeah. Pee Wee Herman, a.k.a. Ty Detmer, came in. Steve Sarkisian, all these guys. You get this run. Can BYU do it again? Aaron Roderick's the key to all this. Aaron Roderick is the key to all of this. So it's super exciting to see that development. Let's keep it going. I wonder if we feel the same about basketball, though. Basketball, I'm a little more timid on win now versus whatever in the Big 12. I almost want BYU and these other guys to make sure they're ready for the Big 12.
There's this idea that maybe if BYU only wins 8 games in 2022, maybe there's unfinished business. And all these guys come back.
I need to come back. Yeah.
And they're leading them into the Big 12 in 2023. But you know what?
They're not going to win 8 games. It's going to be 9+.
Exactly.
It's too good.
Let's go.
Too
Win
good.
now, and then we'll deal with the ramifications later.
Yep.
Our question of the day: will success in 2022 for BYU football somehow negatively impact the Cougars in their first year of Big 12 play? Let's hear from you in Voice of the Nation.
This is the Voice of the Nation on BYU Sports Nation.
Sam Emery answers on Twitter, quote, momentum and success is what got BYU invited to the Big 12. Hard to imagine that it'll hurt BYU going in. Only downside is the fan expectations might be too high going in, but I think BYU can live with that.
Yeah, it's born of the theology here. We believe anything's possible, so let's go. And we've actually seen a national championship here, which is the best and worst thing that's ever happened to BYU. The best because it happened, and the worst because you think it can happen again. But it's all good. Yeah, I'm not sure momentum got BYU in the Big 12. I think history, program prestige, success over time, yes. But
it didn't hurt that they had an amazing 2020, right?
Didn't hurt. Yeah, it didn't hurt. But I think if BYU's winning 8 games every year, they're still in it.
Hashtag BYUSN Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Coming up, what would you do if Jimmer reffed your church ball game?
I certainly would probably complain more than usual. Plus,
just a chat.
Yep, the newest basketball signee, Braeden Moore, joins us. Why did he pick BYU? And what's his impact going to be this season? This is BYU Sports Nation.
Professor Rock here.
The Food Nanny.
Chandler Scott here.
Samry.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
I just want to tell you about this amazing,
Excellent.
Cool account called My Style.
My Style checking. I'm talking travel points.
Gift card. Concert tickets.
All just for using my account.
That's My Style.
So check it out.
Give it a shot.
Open your My Style checking account today.
Accidents don't just happen 9 to 5. They happen when you least expect them. The team at Siegfried & Jensen is here for you 24/7. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour. Really here for you. No matter when you call us, you'll speak to a real person and have access to the same expertise and personal attention as always, and get the legal help you need when you need it. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour, 24/7.
Learn more at siegfriedandjensen.com.
Dream is to send a man to the moon. We're going to send up a test subject first, an Air Force chimpanzee.
You're gonna train them to be astronauts?
I've got less than 5 weeks to go on this thing, and frankly, I could use all the help I can get.
This is my son. I say what he does and does not do.
I will win this race to space, but I will lose my fun.
We have to give him a chance to fulfill his destiny.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Baseball hosts Utah tomorrow, looking for a 10th straight win. Watch the game live at 8 Eastern time on the BYU TV app or listen on the BYU radio app.
Oh, 10 is coming, Jarom?
10 is coming. Let's go. Yeah.
We're live in Studio B with your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play.
Nice.
I'm Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan.
10 is
Works
coming.
out that BYU baseball with a 9-game win streak takes on Utah tomorrow. Joining us now over Zoom is the newest signee for BYU basketball. He's an absolute star at the prep level. His name is Braeden Moore, 6'8".
Yeah.
He can shoot it. He can defend. Braeden, welcome to BYU Sports Nation and BYU basketball.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, I think everybody wants to know, how did you hear about BYU from over in Tennessee, and why did you pick Mark Pope and the Cougars for your collegiate basketball career?
Yeah, I just think it's the best fit for me and my family. I think the values of, the program and the school is what's very attractive to me. And I think, I fit the style of play. Coach Pope is amazing. I couldn't imagine a different coach I could play for. I think he, out of all the coaching staffs I was recruited by, they're one of the best, if not the best. And just, it's just been phenomenal, you know, everything, the fans. I mean, I could go on and on, location, you know, so.
Walk us through when BYU first reached out and when you realized that BYU was the school for you.
Yeah, so I was reached out by the old assistant, Coach Burgess, who has now moved on, but at the beginning of my recruitment about 2 years ago. So I had learned a lot. My dad had a bunch of buddies go to BYU, so I've known a lot about BYU for a minute. And just, once I kind of, my season ended at Donda, we started talking and more and more with the new assistant, and just, from then on, it just, took off. So
Braeden Moore is with us on BYU Sports Nation. What do you expect to do for BYU basketball in year one? Because as we have talked about ad nauseum on this show, there's some room for guys to come in and play right away. So what do you expect to do in year number one?
I think coming in with, goals rather than expectations is a big thing for me. I think, I'm not expecting to start. I'm not expecting to play. I'm not expecting all these sort of things. I'm expecting just to be me and do everything I can to win. Have a winner's mindset and work as hard as I can. Like, that's literally my goal. And just, and see where the rest falls. I'm excited to work. I'm a elite shooter. And, I think that can work at any level, especially these days, just the way people play. And so, I'm just, really excited to work. I keep saying it, but that's just my personality. So,
How would you qualify your position? Are you a stretch four? Are you more of a three? What do you prefer to play?
3-4. I mean, it's so hard because, positionless basketball is like a new thing these days. I think Coach Pope kind of wants me to be more in the 4 position. I think I could develop into a 3 in the future, but I think being able to get down low, take advantage of mismatches is a big thing, but also being able to draw defenders out and, have to, make them guard me on the perimeter, and just being able to shoot over, defenders is a thing I'm really good at. So I would say more of like a shooting forward, I guess, is kind of what I call myself. So
I like it. Let's use it. Shooting forward Braeden Moore is on BYU Sports Nation. So you moved to Nashville about, 7 years ago? I think you posted on social media. So from Southern California, and you mentioned your dad had friends go to BYU, so maybe members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so somewhat familiar with sort of what BYU is about?
Correct. Yeah. I'm an evangelical Christian, so I grew up. That's just the way I grew up. I'm in the Bible Belt, so that's just kind of how it is. But or as they call it, I guess. But my dad, my mom, even they're from Southern California, so growing up, they had a lot of LDS friends. Like, some of their best friends are LDS, actually. So I'm very, very familiar. Before I committed, we talked to a bunch of people, and just, so, I mean, it was amazing. Support. I mean, my Twitter was crazy, and Instagram. So yeah, I mean, it was awesome though. So
that's fantastic, man. That's great. And with those SoCal roots, we read that your mom swam at Pepperdine and your dad played basketball at Point Loma. So some natural athleticism in the family there.
Yeah, they argue who's the better athlete all the time. So
and who is it?
I don't want to start a feud here, but
gotta go with mom, bro.
I don't know. I mean, swimmers are some of the hardest workers I've ever met. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one, but yeah.
That's a good political answer.
Dad's like Braden within Moore. Earshot right now. Yeah.
They're both standing there just glaring at you. All right, Braeden, you end up in Nashville at Donda Academy and playing for Kanye West's team. Walk us through how that all came to fruition.
Yeah, that was literally the craziest thing ever. So I decommitted and announced I was going to Donda at the same time from my prior school. So yeah, I think just, it was literally a God thing. Like I was, I had a fantastic season my junior year, and we went to state and everything. And I just was like, I think I needed a change of scenery. I knew I needed something more to really push me and get out of my comfort zone. And to break down a little bit of Donda is like, it was like two separate things. Like there's a basketball aspect and there's being around, the whole Kanye experience. Now the whole Kanye experience was kind of like pushed aside a little bit to an extent, because I was so focused on, just working hard in the gym. I mean, we barely had any breaks. We were working hard. So, just getting after it, doing online school. So, NBA trainers, the whole nine. So yeah, I mean, that transition was kind of nuts. It kind of happened out of nowhere, but I'm glad it happened, and, I would do it 10 times over. So.
Is it crazy to be on the cover of Slam magazine with Kanye West?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I got to frame it and I got to save it just so I can show my kids so they'll believe me. So
that won't be the peak. You'll have another thing, right, that you can show them as well, which is awesome. Like,
oh, of course, yeah.
What's Kanye like? Because there's so many stories about him, but we have a picture of you two interacting here. It looks like he forgot that he was indoors here, maybe?
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, his fits are phenomenal. Yeah, they're out of this world. But no, he's a very genuine guy. That photo is actually on Yahoo. I found it on yahoo.com. So that was like the craziest thing. So anyway, but just, he's a great guy. He's just very genuine. I mean, it's like, he's so in the public, he's such a celebrity in a way. So, but people don't realize he's also like a billionaire. So he's a great businessman. So, I have a lot of respect for him. I actually didn't know a lot going in about him to Donda. Like, I wasn't a big fan, to be completely honest. But so I learned a ton, and now I'm a Kanye fan because just of the person he is. So
fantastic stuff. Braeden Moore is with us on BYU Sports Nation. Okay, you play at Donda Academy, and we saw a quote on Twitter the other day that said, you think Kanye might show up at a game at BYU. Do you really believe that he's going to come to the Marriott Center?
Let's get him here.
Is he ready for the Marriott Center?
I don't know if he's ready for it, but I've been told by people around him that, they always say like, oh, we'll come out and come see you. So we'll see. But I think I'll send them, a game or something, and they'll see the fans and they'll be like, oh yeah, this is marketable. Yep. This is going to work. So I wouldn't be surprised if it could work. But again, I can't make any promises.
Yeah, Kanye needs to do something with Cosmo and the Cougarettes, and it would go absolutely viral.
Ayo and Teo performed here as well. And it was incredible.
That, yeah.
He doesn't have to perform per se. He just shows up. It can be the Gonzaga game, bro. There'll be 20,000 fans in there, packed, ESPN. This is the perfect game. You hit your boy up, and let's get him to Provo, bro.
I'll do my best.
Do you have his email address? Because I'm wondering if you have his phone number, They're like, no, you go through his handle.
I don't think that they would give his phone number out to a bunch of 18 and 17.
True. They're like, Kanye's number ready. Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
that would be amazing.
Now, Braeden, we're looking forward to BYU getting into the Big 12. We were just talking about that last segment as it relates to football, but BYU basketball is on the cusp of playing in the toughest conference in all of college basketball. So how much was BYU joining the Big 12 a factor in your decision to come to Provo?
Yeah, so I've been asked this a bit, and to be completely honest, the league they're in now is a great league. People don't realize that. WCC is a phenomenal league right now. Now, I do think Big 12 is going to be a big step up, and, I'm ready to play in that. I think that is something that was very attractive and definitely a plus, but that wasn't the main reason I came to BYU. I came to BYU for the people, the environment, the academics, most important, above all, actually, and just, the coaching staff and the, my teammates. I mean, I was around some players, and, they're just the best dudes that I've been around for being on recruiting visits and stuff. So, there are a lot of factors, but I definitely think, that's definitely a plus. And, I'm so excited. That is so awesome, being able to play at Allen Fieldhouse and Kansas and all those places. I mean, that's legit. That's big time. So,
and listen, they can take you to a couple hot chicken spots. I know it's not the same. as Nashville, and we don't have Broadway Street.
Oh my goodness!
Way fewer drunk people on a Saturday night. I'll tell you that in Provo. But yeah, the music, good scene. Not quite the same there, but it is going to be fun. So when do you get to Provo?
So yeah, we're still figuring that out. Just going through the application process, and still haven't graduated yet. So I'm really just knocking out some schoolwork in the meantime, and just hopefully I think the first few weeks of June I'll be here. So
nice.
So yeah, I mean, shoot, I'm excited. So
well, we hate to deter you from your homework, but with that in mind, what are you hoping to study at BYU while you're here?
I would like to be a business major. I know the Marriott School of Business is I think it's top 10 or something like that. So it's a phenomenal business school, and that's something that I've been looking at. So it could change, how college students are, they never really know. But most likely business. So.
All right, Braden, we need to indoctrinate you into what happens here on BYU Sports Nation. When you join the show, you then earn the right to receive BYU Sports Nation karma, and you can use that for whatever you want. Your life's already really good.
It's good luck.
It'll get better. So if you have a big test coming up, you're going to ace it. That's just kind of how this thing works.
If you're trying to track down Kanye's number, maybe you'll get it.
Oh, my gosh. Y'all are awesome.
But when we have you on campus, we need to have you in Studio B so you can sign the flag, and then you can get the full implementation. But congratulations on all your success. We look forward to seeing you in Provo, man. Can't wait to watch you play basketball for BYU.
Of course. Can't wait to meet you guys in person.
You got it. Braeden Moore with us over Zoom on BYU Sports Nation.
Dude, so interesting. There's a lot there, which is awesome.
He is a shooting forward.
He called himself an elite shooter.
I don't doubt it.
I love it. That's what you need.
We want that swag. We want that confidence.
And he mentioned being a 3 or 4, and that Mark kind of wants him to be more of a 4. You only really need 1.5 good back-to-the-basket players, okay? BYU has 2 bigs right now. So you could say maybe he's kind of half a big in that regard. Okay. You go small, he's a stretch forward. That's okay. Coming up later in the show, we'll break that down. Kind of what BYU needs next.
What does BYU need now?
2. Yes, they've signed 2, which brings us to this. Coming up, men's hoops signed 2 players. What's the next priority? What else does BYU still need after Williams and now Moore?
They got Rudy. They got Braden.
Rudy.
Let's go. They need some Mo. You know what I'm talking about?
We want some Mo.
And can the Cougars defend their Pac-12 title in football this season? Yeah, we're going there too. This is BYU Sports Nation.
They prefer to be bringing the heat, getting set for success, demonstrating their drive. But when their blood and sweat turns to tears or anything else, we lay the groundwork for BYU's athletes to hit the ground running again. And you as well. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU Athletics.
Hi, Spencer Linton here, letting you know when your company joins the BYU team as a corporate partner, your brand can be featured in sports programming on BYU TV and BYU Radio. In addition to all of the great games, you can be part of the BYU coaches shows, place your message in Countdown to Kickoff, basketball pre- and post-game shows, and each weekday on BYU Sports Nation. We invite your team to join ours and become a corporate sponsor of BYU Athletics. For details, email sponsorship@byu.edu today.
Turn TV time into together time with the BYU TV app. Watch all your favorite shows when, where, and how you want.
This isn't like a practical joke, is it?
No, sir. Immerse yourself in stories with all the feels. Go on uninterrupted journeys of discovery and see families coming together while watching with your own. See new and original content, all for free on the BYU TV app.
BYU Sports Nation is brought to you by Maersk, enabling global trade for a growing world.
Check out our BYU Sports Nation YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and get all the latest interviews and interesting segments. We have yet to upload something that's not interesting to our YouTube channel.
Well, you could argue the whole, fingernail painting thing was...
I thought that was interesting.
I can't. That was interesting.
What's the timeline like on how long these?
So I wanted, I thought I was going to take them off early last week, and then I got peer pressure. Like, Spencer, BYU baseball and BYU softball have not lost since you painted your fingernails.
Oh shoot!
And I was like,
this was Shep's braces.
It's become a superstition thing.
Yeah, back in the day, Shep had braces.
Yeah,
and BYU was winning, and he got them off. And then BYU started to lose, and you need to put the braces back.
Well, now that the NCAA absolutely shafted softball.
Shaft?
Yeah. The fingernails they're done today.
They're done today?
They're done today because of the whole softball situation. It's too painful. Taylor Williams painted it. It's painful.
Do you need to, scrub them vigorously? What's the process?
I need to have them professionally removed at a nail salon.
Taylor doesn't...
No, fun story.
Taylor doesn't do it for you?
No.
She leaves you high and dry on the end part?
She pro bono right here, right?
True,
I'm not going to ask her to sacrifice more of her time to take off the gel.
And today's not a great day to hang out.
No kidding. I almost did it the other day, but they just so happened to kind of forget that I had an appointment, so I had to kind of reschedule something. But I walked into the nail spa.
And they were like, what are you doing here?
There was
mister?
30 women. Every chair's full.
Yep.
Okay, so I walk in.
Yep.
I'm the only dude. They all turn and look at me, and I was like, well, now this is interesting with my blue fingernails. And the guy's like, can I help you?
Another guy? Okay.
It's working. That's working.
Yeah.
It's manning the desk. And I said, I have an appointment to get my gel nails removed.
I love it.
Put it up. They're all just staring at me like I'm an absolute idiot.
Well, you and I have gone to Zupa's before for lunch and felt the same thing minus the nails.
It takes a lot to make me feel uncomfortable.
It's just the two of us.
It takes a lot to make me feel uncomfortable in a public setting. I felt uncomfortable with the eyes that were just glued on me in that moment.
I can't relate to that moment, but I never feel more judged in my life than when I walk on an airplane. Everyone's looking up like...
People watching. Oh, you, that guy.
Oh, you didn't check your bag. Oh, you're the reason we haven't taken off yet. I'm like, sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
If you want more engaging content like we've been discussing...
Yeah, that's just
you know what to do. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
That's a sample.
Let's whip it.
The Bushman shrooms from Outback.
The Cougar Whip Around is presented by Maersk, your integrated container logistics company enabling global trade for a growing world.
USA Today's Ducks Wire, which covers Darkwing Duck and the Oregon Ducks. The blog lists BYU versus Oregon 6th and BYU versus Stanford 14th in its top 18 Pac-12 games of the year.
Yeah. Okay.
Will BYU defend its conference championship in those two games?
I sure hope so, because that narrative has been one of the funnest narratives that we've ever encountered on this show. And we've been doing this show for almost a decade.
The Crimsonites really love it. And I'm not talking about Washington State.
Can you imagine if BYU wins 2 more road games against the Pac-12 and we're all saying they're 7-0 against the Pac-12?
Hang the banner!
Since 2019. Now, wait a second. Is the last loss that BYU had to a Pac-12 team the Tyson Williams game when he got hurt against Washington? Is that the last time BYU lost to a Pac-12 team?
Yeah.
It's been that long.
Our future NFL running back towards ACL.
Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep this win streak rolling.
BYU's winning both those games.
Let's go!
Winning at Oregon, definitely beating Stanford. Come on.
Hey, all right, so we're in agreement.
Yeah.
Yes. Defend the Pac-12 South de facto title.
Just straight title. Not defend.
Got some tweets to read from football savant Adam Brenneman.
Savant?
Yeah, well. Who says, players I'm most excited to see in college football this year, part 10. Isaac Rex, tight end BYU. Rex is a star in BYU football play action's boot game they use so often. 56 catches for 15 touchdowns in 2 seasons. The ankle injury against USC is a concern, but his ceiling is high if healthy. Preston Rex, family member, says, facts. Ankle is good. I've been grinding with him on the daily. They're putting in that work. So, Jarom, how many touchdown catches will Isaac Rex have this year? He had 12 in 2020, 3 last year, had the injury. What's the number this year?
7+. I think he's going to have a really nice year. Adam, by the way, was a tight end in college. Mm-hmm. Preston is a walk-on receiver for the Brigham Young off a Mish. Yeah, Isaac's going to rebound nicely off of that ankle injury and have another good year, man.
Yeah, I'm not far from you. The first number that popped in my mind was 6. He'll have at least 6 touchdown catches for BYU, and that's only because the ball is going to be distributed very evenly between a wealthy number of weapons for BYU.
Most notably, Puka Nacua and Gunnar Romney. That 1-2 is nice.
It's incredible. How much is Dallin Holker going to factor in? How many touchdowns is Chris Brooks going to take at the goal line behind that massive offensive line? How many touchdowns is Jaron Hall going to score with his legs?
Chase Roberts. Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, how upset should BYU Softball be at not getting an at-large bid?
This is a Travis mockery, okay? It's awful. I hate RPI so much that it's still used, that it's still used so primarily in all of these other Olympic sports.
Get a better metric.
Did we not determine that metric is so archaic and outdated with basketball?
Does someone just not care, maybe, to make a metric?
Well, so here's the
thing. Why didn't the NCAA create it? Oh, wait, they only care about the money.
Every team in the top 40 of the RPI in softball got in except for one. Okay, and then one team.
That's a stat of the day.
One team outside of the top 40 got in at 42 at Texas A&M. Texas A&M was 3 games over 500, Jarom, but they play in the SEC.
12 SEC teams got in of the 14, by the way.
29 and 26, Texas A&M with an RPI because their RPI is 42. They justify that instead of a team that's 42 and 10 and was 17 in a row. But they played in the SEC. I'm so sick. And literally, it comes down to this. Had BYU played, they didn't have to win. Had they just played 3 more tough games and lost all of them, their RPI would be better. Oh, and now they deserve to be in? That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. So they should be very upset. This is a joke.
To the NCAA, what you just said is the most idiotic thing I have ever heard. At no point in your committee's incoherent rambling was there a semblance of a rational thought. We are all now dumber for having listened to BYU not getting an at-large bid. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on you.
Down with the RPI. Die 1,000 fiery deaths.
Jeez.
After winning 9 straight games, BYU baseball in 4th place in the West Coast Conference.
Yep.
Will they catch either Portland or San Diego, the 2nd and 3rd place teams, this week?
Here's the sitch. BYU lost both series 2-1 to San Diego and Portland, so they'd need probably a sweep, and for those teams to be swept.
Correct.
That's probably not happening, and that's okay. Top seed Gonzaga at San Diego, so that's interesting. Possibility there. Pepperdine hosts Portland. Pepperdine is on the out looking in. They want to pass San Francisco and go from 7 to 6 and be in the tourney. So there's a shot here, but BYU's got a rep against LMU in all 3 this weekend.
Now here's what's helping BYU at least get to 3rd. They swept San Diego. No, sorry, they lost 2 or 3 to San Diego. They swept Pepperdine. Dang it.
No, they lost.
So you have to have one of those teams get swept.
4th would be great. Does seeding even really matter? You're in the top 6. You're good.
All right.
Let's go.
Keep it rolling.
What's your reaction to the following? You walk into your local church, and Jimmer Fredette is reffing the church ball game. This happened last week. What would you do?
Well, first of all, I'd probably be really nervous to play basketball in front of him.
Because they tell other people about it later?
No, just because it's the great Jimmer Fredette.
The Jimmer.
Yeah. But then, after the first few shots go up and you realize, you're not, even if you make those shots, you're not impressing him.
He doesn't.
You just have a good time.
I want to put him in a blocker charge situation where he has to make a call. And then I'm getting teed up if it doesn't go my way immediately.
You pull a Gene Hackman in Hoosiers and you ask the referee to throw you out. Hey, throw me out of the game.
One time, apparently, Danny Ainge, as GM of the Celtics, told Doc Rivers, hey, get thrown out of this game. Let's go watch the U.S. Open on a Sunday. And Doc was trying to get thrown out, and the refs were like, we know what you're doing, and we can't watch it either. And you're going to have to stay here in the game.
If we had to stay here, you have to stay here.
I haven't confirmed whether that story is actually true, but that's hilarious.
Jimmer, throw me out of the game so that I can post all over social media that I got thrown out of a game.
Jimmer threw me out.
Jimmer Fredette.
He's a terrible official. Coming up, rise and shout out to the team that should still be playing. We'll complain some more about BYU.
Set some records on Friday, too. And what's the very next priority for BYU basketball in this wild offseason of recruiting in the transfer portal? This is BYU Sports Nation.
Hey, that's a question. We got answers. Let's go.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Trio Orem Senior Living believes in empowering seniors to live life to the fullest. We help eliminate stress out of daily life when you live at Trio. Less time focusing on housework means you can socialize at one of our many events, with safety in mind, of course. And did we mention our spacious apartments with modern amenities? Learn more about setting up a private tour at trioorem.com.
Don't you just miss the good old days? Back when you thought being an adult would be the greatest thing ever. But then, before you know it, you have car payments, student loans, credit card debt. That doesn't even include the mortgage. That's when my loan officer suggested a debt consolidation refinance. And just like that, I'm debt-free, and I'm on track to pay off my mortgage in just 11 years. Take back control of your adulthood. Hey.
Find out how he did it at intercaplending.com/debt-free.
Uh-oh. Do you not know the groom's name?
I missed it on our first date, and it's way too late to ask.
Whenever you experience something funny, the first thing you want to do is share it with your loved ones. Seeing that comedy helped us through things, that we want to use that to help other people in a way.
We had one kid whose make-a-wish was to come to Studio C. It made me be these goofy sketches mean a lot to people.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
There's one of the 28 touchdowns BYU scored against Virginia on October 30th. Hey, we're going to St. George this Saturday. Let's go! No, literally, we're going. Noon Eastern, 10 Mountain Time. We're going to do a show on BYU TV and BYU Radio from Sandtown Park in St. George. Come hang out at the BYU Fan Fest. Great showing out in Farmington. St. George has better weather, so we're headed that direction. It's actually going to be pretty warm.
89 degrees expected for a high that day, so it's going to be a perfect 75 when we're doing the show.
What's the barometric pressure that day, I wonder?
29.13. I don't know.
That's going to be deadly. Just kidding.
I have no idea. Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation live from Studio B. As promised, we now shift our attention back to BYU basketball. And note that in the last 9 days, it's been a busy 9 days, BYU has added transfer point guard Rudy Williams from Coastal Carolina.
Rudy.
He's seen the light. He's leaving Conway, South Carolina.
The only redeemable quality from the Chanticleers ever.
Well, isn't the university president a BYU graduate too?
And President Benson.
Yep, exactly.
There are two redeemable qualities from Conway.
They got Rudy Williams from Coastal Carolina and freshman shooting forward Braeden Moore, who we just talked to today from Donda Academy.
Catching on, man.
What's the next priority for BYU basketball now that they have their point guard and a shooting forward?
Bigs. You need a starting five. I don't want Atiki to have to start yet. I would love for that to be after this year, him be the guy. I'd like him to be the backup. You only have two bigs on the roster right now, Foose and Atiki. Great. They're nice. Foose had a tremendous freshman year. Fantastic. Pressed into service. Did really well. Atiki developed really nicely kind of the last 10 out of 15 games there. He played well, right? It's got to be a big that can start at the five. It doesn't need to be a guy that's a double-digit scorer per se, but can that guy be a rebounder, a shot blocker? The reason BYU makes an at-large bid 2 years ago is because they have 7'3" Matt Harms, defensive player of the year in the league, not to mention senior Brandon Averett, right, and Alex Barcelo. You need that guy with this team. BYU's got some length and some athleticism in this group, but it's got to be that. Then it's got to be, to me, another wing who can average double-digit scores out of the transfer portal. I like the three BYU has in Nell, Johnson, and George. Just one hasn't emerged and become the guy, so I wonder if BYU has to bring in someone to be the guy there, to be a consistent double-digit scorer. I don't know, because do we think Rudy Williams is a one-for-one with Tijon in some way? Then how is Alex Barcelo being replaced? That's a big question mark, is wing scoring. Who's making a shot late in the shot clock? Who's that going to be? Are you looking to one of those three seniors to make a big jump? That's a fair question to ask. They've been here a couple of years. I like the potential of all three who have kind of shown up, but I want to feel like there's a wing on the floor that can score 20 tonight and somewhat consistently. Not average 20, but that every couple of games could go for 20. I'm not super confident right now with those three that 20 is that mark. Like a 10, a 15, a 17 sprinkled here and there, some good defense. But the consistency is an issue for me.
Now, when we look at the three, excuse me, we look at the three returning missionaries. You have Dallin Hall, and we expect him to play, right? We expect Dallin Hall
point guard,
to be in the lineup, in the roster.
He's in the rotation.
Sure.
He's in the top 8 or 9.
Yeah, so we expect him to see the floor behind Rudy Williams. So I almost
Tanner
like
Toulson and
Richie Saunders. Now,
like,
Tanner and Richie, are they the guys that maybe could see some of those minutes in that wing position?
We'll see with 3 seniors. It's really interesting. And maybe BYU feels like, no, we're good on the wing. We just need to get like 2 or 3 more bigs.
See, and it makes me wonder, do you add just straight more size? Because certainly BYU needs at least one big, a guy that can just step in and start at the 5 right now.
Yes.
But do you need another ball handler? Like, do you need somebody to join Rudy Williams?
Saying point guard.
A guy with more than 1 year of experience, like maybe someone in the transfer portal that has at least 2 years of eligibility remaining to help BYU carry into the Big 12 along with Dallin Hall so that you have your ball handler already set for the year ahead.
I will tell you this, and I've had this question. We've discussed this on the show. My concern has been, don't just go all in, grad transfers on next year only. Be ready for the Big 12. BYU feels like, yes, they need to – I've had conversations. They feel like, yes, they need to go and be ready for the Big 12, but you have to win now. It's like we were talking about in the opening segment. BYU feels pressure to win now. Of course they do. Of course. You can't go 2 years in a row out of the NCAA tournament and go into the Big 12 being like, yeah, we're good. Like, BYU's going to get gutted after this year with at least 4 of the top, 5 wings probably on this team graduating.
Yeah.
That's similar to 22 and 23 in football of what we were talking about. So we like the return missionaries. They're definitely the future. Now you add Braeden Moore, a shooting forward into the mix, which is exciting. But you've got to have that 5. And I just wonder and who knows, maybe Trey Stewart takes off. We haven't seen a ton of Trey. Maybe he develops. Maybe he goes. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I just see a lot of wings there, and I'm going, who's going to score? Like, Rudy Williams is definitely the guy where you hand him the ball as the point guard and say, you're the guy, like right away. But I'm with you. I would love another guy that's going to be here into the Big 12, ideally a guy who's played a year or 2 somewhere and wants 2 more years, chance to play in the Big 12. That'd be great. Because my concern is BYU going to have a team good enough to make the NCAA tournament? And you look back to 2 years ago, and that was a special group, being a 6 seed as an at-large. Like, I don't even care what the seed is. I'm not that picky. I'd take an 11. I'd take Dayton. Just to play in the NCAA tournament again for BYU would be awesome.
Yeah, and it took some notable transfers. You mentioned them. Brandon Averett, Alex Barcelo, Matt Harms. Like, the core of that team.
Arizona, Oklahoma State /UVU. Like,
the core of that team was in the transfer portal. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is a new age. I get it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Mark Pope and staff have some things up their sleeves, but we believe it starts with size, and then is it either a wing, a scoring wing, or another point guard after that? There are 2 open scholarships remaining.
You need 2 point guards? Because if you bring in a transfer, you're not asking him to be a backup, probably. You're probably having him start.
Correct. But then maybe Dallin Hall is like, hey,
Dallin, the point guard.
Dallin, you just focus on being a 2 guard. You're a 2 guard.
Okay, coming up, we give it up for the softball team, who, again, had an amazing season and unfortunately didn't make the NCAA.
Plus a record-setting performance over the weekend. There are quite a few, actually. This is BYU Sports Nation.
I was going to say, which one?
I know what it's like to be overlooked, to be doubted, to fly under the radar. I only had one offer coming out of high school, but I was ready for every moment, every opportunity, and every shot that I got. Now I'm playing professional basketball, aiming to be one of the best shooters on the planet. And I'm just getting started. Be ready for your moment with Rapid Reboot, the future of rapid recovery.
Gather the family for a midweek pick-me-up with an all-new lineup Wednesdays on BYU TV.
Is that cool? Is that okay?
You want inspiring? Yeah, we got that. Fun? Definitely. And surprising? Well, you'll just have to find out. Enjoy a marathon of good works to lift and inspire you for the rest of your week. See it all Wednesdays on BYU TV or anytime on the free app.
My dream is to send a man to the moon. We're going to send up a test subject first, an Air Force chimpanzee.
You're going to train them to be astronauts?
I've got less than 5 weeks to go on this thing, and frankly, I could use all the help I can get.
This is my son. I say what he does and does not do.
I will win this race to space, but I will lose my phone.
We have to give him a chance to fulfill his destiny.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Nation always available on demand via the BYU TV and BYU Radio apps.
Download the podcast. Just Google BYU Sports Nation podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review.
Our question of the day: will success in 2022 for BYU football somehow negatively impact the Cougars in their first year of Big 12 play?
Yes, but it'll be worth it.
Jonathan Hawkinson says on Twitter, success for BYU in 2022 will create positive momentum to propel BYU into their first year in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Positive recruiting momentum specifically.
Yeah.
He continues, the athletes and coaches need to build on their success and maximize their talent and potential this year so they can maximize their success in the first year in the Big 12.
You think UCF was like, after undefeated in our national championship and then losing only one game the next year, just hasn't been the same after that. It really wasn't worth it. I really wish we wouldn't have done. No, that's where BYU's at, is just go all in, win now, and then the hope is that BYU can get more Puka Nakuas, more Samson Nakuas, more Christopher Brooks, develop more Peyton Wilgars and Tyler Algiers, if you will, and go from there. The success builds on itself quite a bit. At some point it ends, certainly. It will be a challenge. Because the Big 12 entrance isn't just the Big 12. It's plus Tennessee and Arkansas.
Yep.
So it's 11 Power 5s, we think. Just get ready. We'll deal with that when we get to that.
Be as attractive as possible to incoming recruits, whether it's the transfer portal or out of high school.
Let's go.
Our Elite Voice of the Day, presented by Sundance Mountain Resort. J. Matthew Cheshire on Facebook says, winning never hurts. A lot of truth in that.
Absolutely.
Today's Rise and Shout Out presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. Can we give it to Chloe Temples of BYU
100%.
Softball?
What a performance over the weekend.
15 strikeouts in a single game. Mind you, they only go 7 innings, so there are only 21 outs. She had 15 strikeouts.
Boom.
Never been done before. 0 walks.
That's unbelievable. Love it.
Well done, Chloe, and well done, BYU Softball, on a fantastic season.
Yep.
Our thanks to today's guest, Braeden Moore, new basketball signee for BYU.
And Kanye West. Started in a spitter, ran out of time.
For Jarom, I'm Spencer. Shout out to Andy Toulson. Tandem Toulson's on his way. We'll see you tomorrow on BYU Sports Nation. Go Cougs.